Hi, I'm Vincent, the man who built a home for his family and got driven straight to the airport like a stranger after signing it away. My son and daughter-in-law smiled, said they'd handle everything, then left me sitting at gate 42 with nothing but my coat and a quiet heart. 1 hour later, 18 missed calls. You ever wonder what happens when the silence fights back? I remember that Sunday. It was warm, too warm for October, and the sun slanted in through the lace curtains like it was trying to get in on the family business. My house sat calm and proud, same way it had for 35 years. I laid each brick with my own hands, paid off every inch of that mortgage with double shifts and missed holidays. That house was my legacy. They all came over that afternoon, Malik, my son, and his wife Jasmine, brought cake and champagne, of all things, for a Sunday. Jasmine wore this bright yellow dress, and Malik had on slacks he'd never wear unless he wanted something. They hugged me tight, kissed my cheeks, said things like, "You're the heart of this family," and "We just want to celebrate you, Daddy." I should have known then. Something about it felt off. The laughter didn't ring right. It echoed too hard. Malik passed me a manila folder. "Just the deed, Pop," he said, real casual. "Makes it easier if anything ever happens." I looked at it. The house, my house. He was talking about putting it in his name. Jasmine slid next to me, smiling. "It's already yours. We're just formalizing it. Legal stuff." I nodded slow. My fingers hesitated on the pen. I looked at Malik. I raised him right, didn't I? Taught him how to fix a leaky pipe, how to look a man in the eye, how to take care of his people. So I signed. As the pen scratched across the page, my stomach turned. My late wife used to say, "Don't second-guess love or you'll grow old alone." Maybe that's why I did it. Love, or habit, or maybe just a fool's trust. When I handed the papers back, I caught something in Jasmine's eyes. Just for a second, like guilt. But it was gone before I could hold it. "Let's go for a drive, Daddy," Malik said after we cut the cake. "You need to relax, clear your head." The car ride was quiet. Too quiet. We didn't head toward the park like we used to. Malik took the freeway. The air felt stale inside the car, like the AC couldn't quite catch up. Old school R&B played low. Luther or Marvin, I don't remember. I was too busy wondering why no one looked me in the eye. We pulled up to the airport. Just like that. Terminal drop-off. Malik popped the trunk. "We booked you a flight to see Aunt Loretta," he said, smiling like he was doing me a favor. "Thought it'd be good for you. Fresh air." Before I could ask anything, they were already unloading my suitcase. One I didn't pack. One I didn't know was packed. I stood there on the sidewalk, suitcase in hand, watching my own car pull off like I was some old man being dropped off for bingo night. Didn't even get a goodbye hug. Inside the terminal, I didn't know where to go. So I sat, gate B17. I watched people hug, cry, laugh, families reuniting. I sat still as the world spun on around me. I checked my phone. No messages, no flight info, just silence. No itinerary, no return, nothing. It hit me then, soft but sharp. I wasn't going to see Loretta. I wasn't going anywhere. They'd sent me away like a problem solved. I thought about every lunch I skipped to take extra shifts, every birthday I missed so Malik could have new cleats. Every time I said, "It's okay, son. I'll take care of it." Why? Why did I pour so much into a family that poured me out so easy? My voice cracked when I whispered it, more to myself than anyone. Why'd I give so much for this ending? The intercom called out flight numbers, boarding zones. I didn't hear them. Not really. Just sat there, watching a life I no longer had. An hour passed. My phone buzzed, 18 missed calls. From Malik, Jasmine, a number I didn't recognize. I didn't pick up. The screen lit again. A voicemail started playing on its own. I didn't touch it, just held the phone, heart beating in places I thought had gone numb. "Vincent, we made a mistake. Please." I didn't let it finish. I shut my eyes and let the voice die in the silence. The lights at the Delta counter flickered slightly as I walked up. My knees ached from the hours I'd spent sitting, but I stood up straight. Old habits. A man keeps his back upright even when the world's bent him sideways. Evening, sir. Where you headed? The young clerk asked, polite and routine. Loretta's place, I said, sliding my ID across the counter. Supposed to be a flight booked for me. Name's Vincent Booker. My son said it was all taken care of. She typed, clicked, checked twice. Then she looked up, softly, like she was about to tell me a dog died. I'm sorry, sir. I don't see any reservation for Vincent Booker. Not today, not this week. I frowned, leaned forward a bit. That can't be right. My boy said it was prepaid. He even packed my bags. She tilted her head, a touch of sympathy swimming in her eyes. Are you sure they didn't just drop you off? That hit me in a place deeper than I expected. I forced a chuckle, like I was the punchline of my own bad joke. Yeah, Malik always forgets the details. He means well. She nodded gently, offered a bottled water, but I declined, took my ID back, stepped aside. I stood there a moment, then turned and walked toward a bench near the vending machines. My suitcase rolled behind me, the wheels squeaking on the tile. I sat. The hum of the terminal swallowed me. Everything started rewinding in my head. Cake, champagne, Malik clinking glasses saying, "You earned this, Dad." Earned what? Being left behind like a stranger in his own story? I opened my bag. Neatly folded clothes, my blood pressure pills, my VA card, all packed, all without a single word to me. How long had they planned this? I heard her voice again. My wife, gone 5 years now. Baby, trust your gut. When love feels staged, it ain't love. I looked around. Kids laughing, folks hugging, sharing fries out of paper trays. Families moving like they belonged to each other. I sat still. Maybe this wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was exactly what they meant to do. An older black woman cleaning near the counters kept glancing over. Couple hours later, she walked my way. You all right, sugar? She asked, voice soft like worn leather. I nodded, then shook my head. Waiting on a trip that doesn't exist. She gave a knowing look. Name's Carolyn. I work nights here. You Booker. I seen your name earlier on the TV behind the desk. I squinted. What for? Something about a deed. Property transfer filed today. That your name? I stared at her. Yeah, she said slowly. Might want to call the county. Something ain't sitting right. Her eyes reminded me of my wife's. Clear, kind, but no nonsense. She patted my shoulder and walked off. That night I stayed. Didn't go home. Didn't know where home even was anymore. Coffee was bitter. Cost me $6. I checked my wallet. Only 50 left. That's all they gave me. Janitors mopped, flight crews passed by in silence, and time crawled. I replayed everything Malik said that week. Dad, I'll handle the house paperwork. My house. His paperwork. I leaned back on the bench, eyes wide open. I wasn't crying. No tears. Just a chill crawling through me, slow, like realization often does. Marines taught me something. You don't cry in the dark. You reload. Midnight came and my phone lit up again, same number as before. I answered. Mr. Booker, this is county records. We've been trying to reach you. There was a notarized deed signed today and your name's on file. My voice caught. Who's the new owner? The line went quiet. Then, Malik Booker. I hung up. Didn't speak. Didn't flinch. Just stared at the glass where a plane blinked against the dark. You took my house, son, I whispered. But not my soul. I rode the bus back into Collier Heights under a dim sky. Streetlights flickered on as the city's hush settled. No one came to meet me. The bus stop was empty, the walk home silent. I unlocked my own front door. My key still fit, though everything else seemed foreign. The porch light was off. The steps felt unfamiliar under my shoes. Inside, the house felt stripped. My favorite recliner was gone. Malik's new metal sculpture stood in its place, cold, angular. In the hall, I found a smart lock panel by the door, a device I never approved. I whispered to empty rooms. They erased me fast. In the kitchen, the table where we once laughed felt hollow. I sat there breathing in memories that felt sharper now. Days before the celebration, Malik insisted he help configure my phone. He told me it would keep me connected, but I felt a chill when he fought to hide his smile at the lawyer's name. I ignored it. Old pride told me not to question. Returning to now, The refrigerator held only almond milk and kale, I scoffed. They even took my ribs and hot sauce. My voicemail app glitched, and I navigated back to a recording I hadn't meant to hear. Malik and a woman named Shardy in low tones. By the time he figures it out, he'll be on a beach. Or dead. My chest emptied. The phone slid from my hand. My fingers trembled. That morning, Mr. Quincy showed up with cornbread. He looked worn, but steady. "Didn't expect to see you back," he said. "They told us you moved out." I asked him what folks were being told. He said Malik had brought an estate agent around, getting the house ready. His soft voice cracked when he added, "Something about all this just felt dirty." I thanked him, shut the door, and fetched my notebook. I started writing names, dates, events. The Marine in me awakened. I didn't confront anyone. I collected documents, pulled bills, checked if my retirement accounts had moved. At my trash bin, I found a shredded envelope referencing deed transfers. I reassembled pieces, county office, change of title. I scrounged through my sock drawer for the burner phone I once used for VA contacts. I reached out to Carolyn, the woman at the counter. She agreed to dig into property databases. I turned on phone recording. Each call I made, every visitor I sensed, I wrote down names, times, questions. I whispered, "I've stayed quiet too long. Now I'm listening with purpose." Walking past my wife's memorial photo, I said softly, "Baby, they tried to bury me. Forgot I was a seed." A quiet fire sparked, not revenge, restoration. I remembered Baldwin's line, "The most dangerous creation is the man who has nothing to lose." I scribbled it on a paper and taped it to the fridge. Even now, silence grows loud. It screams what people try to hide. When I pushed open the door, the air didn't feel like home. It smelled like lemon cleaner and new carpet. The kind of clean that ain't about hygiene. The kind that wipes away evidence, erases fingerprints. I stood there for a second, letting my eyes adjust to what should have been familiar. The living room looked different, not rearranged, stripped. Family photos gone. Frames that once held my grandbaby's smiles now sat empty. I opened a drawer under the TV. Jasmine's lipstick rolled to the edge. Braxton's cufflinks glinted under the lamp, but none of my things were there. I walked down the hall to the study. That room always smelled like paper and old tobacco, even though I quit smoking years back. My chair was gone, but a red digital light blinked on the shelf, a voice recorder. I stared at it like it was ticking. I picked it up slow. My thumb hesitated, then pressed play. My voice came first, muffled, tired. From earlier that evening when I'd walked in and said, "Something ain't right." Then came Braxton's voice, calm, confident. "Once he's at the airport, he won't fight." My hand tightened around the recorder. The calm I'd held onto cracked like glass. I sat down shaking. Not scared. Ashamed. Ashamed I'd ignored what I already knew deep down. My mind drifted back 15 years. Era and I sat on the floor of this very room. She was carving our initials into the corner baseboard. I asked why. She said, "So you never forget, this house is built on love, not wood." Then she looked at me, smile soft but serious. "Whatever happens, remember you are more than your home." I didn't understand it then. I do now. I came back to the moment with that recorder still in my hand. It buzzed softly in my grip, truth echoing off every wall. I stood up just as Jasmine's voice called out, "Dad?" She stepped into the room, saw what I held. Her voice dropped. "What are you doing with that?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Listening, for once." She moved slowly, like approaching a wounded dog. "You must have misheard." I pressed play again. The recorder spat her voice into the room. "Once he's flown away, we keep the deed." She froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She reached for the recorder. I stepped back. For a long second, we just stood there. Her breathing quickened. Mine stayed even. "No need to yell," I said quietly. "Silence says enough." She turned sharply, walked out without another word. The room felt colder. I stood there, fists loosening. My body shook, but I didn't move. I remembered telling Malik once, "Power isn't borrowed, it's taken with purpose." Funny how your own lessons circle back to test you. Once she left, I sat down again, pulled out my phone, dialed Thad Beaumont. His voice picked up. Vincent? It's time, I said. Everything's recorded. I need copies. County records, phone logs, the works. He didn't ask questions, just said, got it. I clicked the recorder off, slid it into my coat pocket. The house felt different now, but not in the way they intended. You tried to erase me, I whispered, but you can't erase truth. Then I heard a car outside, tires rolling up the driveway slow. I peeked through the curtain. Braxton. I moved from the study into the side hallway, turned off the light, slipped into the shadows beside the window, his headlights cut through the dusk, and I waited, ready. The sun hadn't even cleared the rooftops when I sat up in bed, wide awake like I was still punching a clock. Old habits don't die easy, even when everything else around you already has. I sat there a moment, just breathing. The room was quiet, but not peaceful. It was that kind of still that makes you feel like time's holding its breath. I shuffled into the kitchen, put on a pot of coffee, and sat with that first bitter sip burning down my throat. The chair across from me stayed empty, her seat. I didn't look directly at it, but I felt it. That void had weight. My notebook was on the table where I left it. Pages filled with notes, names, dates, moments, every scribble a breadcrumb. I wasn't just grieving. I was preparing. Flipped the TV on, but the faces looked plastic, the headlines too far from the war I was in. I turned it off. The world don't stop for a broken man, I muttered. Then I saw her Bible near the windowsill, dusted it off, cracked it open. A folded note peeked from Psalms, her handwriting. They only win when you stop standing. I read it twice, maybe 3 times. I clenched the book to my chest, shut my eyes. I ain't done yet, I whispered. Around 3:45 that afternoon, my phone buzzed. Jasmine, a rare occurrence these days. Family dinner, 7 p.m. You should be there. No hello, no context, just a summons. I didn't reply, didn't have to, but I got dressed anyway. By 6:40, I was parked across the street from my own house, watching the shadows move behind the curtains, Malik pacing, Jasmine fixing something in the kitchen, Braxton sitting with his phone glued to his hand, and Tanika. Even she was there. She'd always been the neutral one. Switzerland, I called her. I waited 5 more minutes before stepping out. Inside, silence fell the second I opened the door. Jasmine looked up but didn't smile. Malik had that nervous energy he gets when he's rehearsed something. Tanika gave a small nod, unsure. Malik spoke first. We all just want to talk, Dad, like grown folks. Jasmine added, You've been acting strange. We need to clear the air. I said nothing, walked around the table, and took my seat at the head like I always used to. That chair still knew me. Malik started. We're worried about your memory. You forgot to pick up your prescription last week. Tanika avoided my eyes. Braxton, who hadn't even looked up before, placed a pamphlet on the table like he was presenting evidence. It's about cognitive decline in older adults. Jasmine leaned in. We're not trying to be hurtful. You've been accusing folks, saying wild things, recording people. It's not healthy. I nodded slowly, just once. So what's the plan? Put me away. Sell the house while I'm locked up? Malik's reply was too quick. Nobody said anything about that. I leaned forward. You just did. The room went stiff. Then I reached into my coat and pulled out a folded paper, clean, notarized, with my lawyer's seal at the bottom, slid it across the table. That's a freeze on the house deed, legal and binding. Y'all been moving like I'm already gone. I just paused your little plans. Jasmine's mouth dropped slightly, then shut tight. Braxton finally looked rattled. Malik stood up, fists tight. You got a lawyer behind our backs? If I'm losing my mind, I said, calm as a quiet storm, then I'm still sharp enough to pick a good one. You really think we'd steal from you? Jasmine said, voice raised now. I don't think, I replied. I know what moves look like. I taught y'all chess, don't act brand new. Tanika opened her mouth, then closed it again. I stood up. You forgot who raised you, who taught you how to tie your shoes, count change, and lie with a straight face. They didn't follow me out the door. I didn't expect them to. Driving felt like dragging chains behind me. I wasn't angry. I was done pretending I wasn't angry. The church parking lot was empty except for the porch lights still glowing like someone forgot to switch them off. I pulled in, cut the engine, and just sat there. Thought I'd feel relief. Instead, I felt weight. Pastor Darnell walked by, headed for his car. He saw me and changed direction. "Evening, Vincent." "Pastor." He waited. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want peace. But not if peace means disappearing." He nodded. "Then fight with light. Don't stoop." I looked at him, tired but steady. Sometimes light comes in the shape of a hammer. He didn't argue. Back home, I walked up the steps, mailbox leaning like it needed a cane. Inside was a thick envelope. County Registrar Office. That alone made my stomach turn. I opened it right there under the porch light. Another deed, dated 2 months ago. And my name was signed, except I never signed it. I stood under that porch light longer than I should have, the envelope from the county registrar still in my hands. The paper inside was thick, official, government weight. My name was printed in black ink, and right beside it, my signature. My stomach knotted. I hadn't signed that deed. Not then, not ever. I walked into the house and sat at the kitchen table, spreading the papers out like a puzzle. The signature looked right, but it wasn't mine. Not really. Whoever copied it had done a damn good job, but they got sloppy with the notary stamp. It was dated a week before they ever asked me to come sign anything at the airport. My heart thumped slow and heavy in my chest. That wasn't just deception, it was premeditated. They didn't just corner me when I was vulnerable. They'd been planning it, playing nice, smiling, calling me dad with soft voices and empty hands. They had a plan long before they ever smiled in my face, I said into the quiet room. I stood and paced the floor, fists clenched. Anger swelled in me like heat rising off pavement, but I didn't act on it. I sat back down, closed my eyes, and forced myself to breathe. Think, Vincent, not react. Move smart, not fast. A week earlier, my lawyer had flagged something odd in the public records, told me to check it out myself, so I had. I'd gone down to the registrar's office on a Tuesday morning, still wearing my church shoes. Miss Strana was at the front desk, familiar face, always cordial. "You were here July 2nd, right?" she asked, scanning her screen. I blinked. "No, ma'am. I was in the hospital that whole week." She frowned. "Huh. System says you signed in here that morning." I didn't speak. I just leaned forward and waited. She printed a copy of the file, slid it across the counter. "This is the document on record." I looked at it, my eyes scanning the lines. The signature on there wasn't mine, but it looked close. Too close. "Thank you," I said. My voice was low, tired. I walked out with that paper in hand, whispering to myself, I know whose pen that was. Now, sitting in my kitchen, it all came together. Every lie, every whisper, every moment they tried to gaslight me. They'd been building this trap from the start. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called Pastor Darnell. Told him I needed to speak to him one-on-one. No pleasantries, no delay. He told me to come by the church office around 10. By the time I got there, the coffee in my hand had gone cold. I stepped into the counseling room, and to my surprise, Braxton was already sitting there, arms crossed, legs jittering. Darnell was standing by the window. "I thought this was just us," I said. Darnell replied softly, "I thought maybe, just maybe, this could be a start." I nodded. "Fair enough." I walked to the table, set my bag down, pulled out the forged deed, and handed it to Braxton. "You want to tell me how this came to be before I do?" He didn't reach for it at first, just stared at it like it might bite. "I don't know what this is," he muttered. I didn't say a word, just pulled out a small recorder, placed it next to the paper, and hit record. I didn't even look at him. His voice shook. "We thought you wouldn't mind. I mean, it's all going to be ours someday anyway." Darnell sat down slowly. He looked like someone had taken the air out of his lungs. I looked Braxton dead in the eyes. "Y'all keep mistaking silence for weakness. That's on you." I didn't wait for a reply. I got up and walked out. Back at home, the house felt colder than usual. I stood in the kitchen, opened the cabinet, pulled out a bottle of bourbon I hadn't touched in years. I poured a glass, let it sit on the counter, didn't drink it. I sank into the recliner that still smelled faintly of her, my wife's chair, and looked at the photo of her on the side table. "They think I'm done," I said out loud. "But you know I ain't, right?" I sat there in silence, thinking about all the men who came before me, men who'd been stolen from, lied to, dismissed. They bore it in silence. carried their hurt behind gritted teeth. But I wasn't them. This wasn't just about property. This was about dignity. I opened my notebook, but I didn't write a plan this time. I started drafting something else, a speech. Words not for a courtroom, but for the pulpit, for the pews, for the eyes of every soul in our congregation who needed to know what betrayal looks like in daylight. The next day, I called Sister Janice. She edits the church bulletin every month. "Sis," I said, "I need to write a reflection piece. Title, When Silence Ain't Golden." She didn't ask questions, just said, "I'll save the back page for you." I stayed up late that night crafting every word with care. I didn't name names, didn't have to. The message was clear. I wrote about silence, about legacy, about how betrayal cuts deeper when it comes from your own. I ended it with one line. Sometimes what hurts the most is not the stranger's betrayal, but the familiar hand you trusted. 2 days later, Braxton came storming through my front door, bulletin in hand. "What is this, Dad?" I looked him in the eye, calm as Sunday morning. "It's the truth, son. Ain't it time somebody finally told it?" I got home after that meeting expecting the quiet of my own walls. Instead, my phone's screen was alive, flashing alerts, messages from numbers I didn't recognize. I plugged it in, watched the battery climb while I scrolled through logs, names I never saved, calls I never made, texts calling me old man, warning me to step back. The logs had been altered. Whoever was doing this already had access. My grip tightened on the charger cord. For the first time in weeks, fear crept in. Not for the house, but for exposure. Sunday came silent. I walked into church holding my Bible like a shield and took a seat way in the back where light doesn't reach. The choir sang, sermons preached, but I felt invisible. Jasmine's family sat front row, good posture, righteous eyes. No one nodded, no one greeted. When the pastor made announcements, he thanked Malik's family for sponsoring the food drive. My name didn't even draw a glance. I swallowed the sting. Memories of me leading prayer, greeting folks, teaching Sunday school, those days felt pulled from someone else's life. A woman next to me leaned close. "They're rewriting your part of the story, brother," she whispered. I clutched my Bible tighter. Outside after service, Mrs. Jenkins stopped me on the sidewalk. "Son, folks are saying you've been acting strange. You okay?" she asked, genuine worry in her eyes. I nodded, asked what she'd heard. She hesitated, voice low. "They say you're not right in the head." My chest tightened. As she walked away, I climbed into my car. Jasmine's call waiting. "Dad, you're scaring our family. Please stop." The voicemail tone was soft, yet it sounded like steel. I replayed it, tone calm, urgency masked. My stomach turned, but I held steady. I pulled up the voicemail folder. Her message was gone. Without pressing delete, vanished. Panic nudged at me. Then I remembered. The recorder. I grabbed it and played back my backup. Her voice there, clear as day. I saved it to my email and sent it to Thad. I said the words out loud, nearly a whisper. "You can't delete truth, but you sure try." Night found me driving to a small recording studio I used to pass by. The neon sign flickered. I walked in and recorded a short piece. When family becomes strangers, you protect the self first. No names, no cries, just warning. I planned to drop it anonymously, let others listen before they assumed. On my way out, I paused. A dark sedan idled across the street, tires whispering. My pulse drummed. I stepped toward the curb, mind sharp, heart steady. The sedan's lights came on. A figure stepped out into the dim. I didn't flinch. I waited. I woke up before the sun broke over the trees. No birdsong, just silence. The kind that ain't heavy no more, just clear. I sat on the edge of my bed, rolled my shoulders, and reached for my jacket. Folded neatly beside it was the old handkerchief that read Pops. I tucked it in my pocket like armor. Today wasn't just another errand. This was the day I faced them all. Not with anger, but with facts. I drove slow through Collier Heights, every street speaking my name without sound. Nobody waved, but folks peeked through curtains. They knew. And I let that fuel me. I had truth. I had documents. I had resolve. Years ago, I built this home with bruised hands and a borrowed dream. I never thought I'd have to fight for it again. Not against blood. By 9, I was inside the courthouse, folder pressed firm to my side. The air felt cold and watched. Security asked more questions than needed. I answered what was necessary. No smiles. No small talk. Mrs. Raina at the clerk's office looked up. "Mr. Sterling?" she said with a nod. I didn't need to explain. She reached into her drawer and pulled out the original deed folder. I handed her the forged version, along with the medical file I'd held onto like gold. She adjusted her glasses. "This wasn't signed by you." She said it flat, with a shake of her head. Just then, through the glass window, I saw Braxton walk in. His face turned the color of wet ash. Inside the hearing room, Thad stood beside me, calm like stone. When it was time, he handed over the medical records. Not the ones the kids tried to push, but the real file. My test results, the ones showing full mental clarity, no dementia, no signs of decline, just a man being silenced. The opposing lawyer jumped in, claimed privacy violation. The judge waved it off, said, "Let the record speak," and it did. I stood and looked directly at the bench. "This file proves they used lies and false documents to try and take my home," I said, voice steady. "They tried to erase me while I was still alive." Braxton shifted in his seat. Jasmine stared at the floor. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. This wasn't a game. This was bloodline business, turned bitter. Then the courtroom door swung open. Mr. Quincy from across the street walked in with a group behind him. Elders, folks I'd lent tools to, watched over their houses for. He raised his hand. "Your Honor, I filed a motion on behalf of the community." The judge blinked. "On what grounds?" Quincy cleared his throat. "Fraud, coercion, and misuse of community trust." I heard them. I heard Jasmine ask me to keep quiet about a forged paper. I didn't. Gasps rippled. Even Thad raised an eyebrow. The judge allowed Quincy's statement. And he delivered, calm, measured, but direct. He wasn't just defending me. He was defending what we all stood for in this neighborhood. When it was done, the judge leaned forward, hands clasped. "The court finds the deed fraudulent. The original ownership is restored to Mr. Vincent Sterling. The defendants are to vacate within 30 days. This court is adjourned." No cheers, no outbursts, just the shuffle of papers and silence. I gathered my folder, tucked it close. I didn't speak to Braxton or Jasmine. They looked smaller than I remembered. Like strangers. Outside, the air was warmer. I stepped into the sunlight and filled my lungs. Felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in months. I didn't cry. I didn't laugh. I just whispered. I lost much, but I kept my soul. On the sidewalk, neighbors stood lined up. Some nodded, some clapped softly. Not for performance, for truth finally breathing air. By late afternoon, I made it home. The house stood like it remembered me, like it waited. I reached into the mailbox. One letter sat alone, no return address, just my name. I held it in my hand for a long moment, thumb tracing the corner. Whatever was inside, I knew it wasn't done yet. The clock on the wall ticked steady, but everything inside me felt restless. That kind of silence that doesn't soothe, it itches, scratches the inside of your skull. I sat by the window looking out over the street. Taillights passed like red comets, and I kept thinking, something's off. There was a memory trying to push its way in. I could feel it knocking. I stood, walked to the closet, and pulled out the coat I wore that day at the airport. My fingers dipped into the inside pocket, and I felt it. Small, plastic, cold. A flash drive. No label. No explanation. I don't remember putting it there, but it was mine now. I held it up against the light, squinting like it could give me an answer. It didn't. So I went to the couch, dragged out the old laptop I never use unless I have to, and plugged it in. One file. Don't play this. I stared at the screen a long time, then clicked. The voice came through like ghosts caught on tape. Malik, Jasmine, in the car. The one that pulled away from the curb while I was still standing outside the terminal. Malik said, "We shouldn't have done it this way." Then Jasmine, calm but cold. "He's old, he won't fight back. He'll just go quietly." There it was, no dressing it up, no more guessing. I leaned back in the chair, fists tight, jaw locked. But the tears stayed where they were, somewhere behind the heart, somewhere behind the pride. I played it again. Near the end, there was another voice. Low, a whisper. "Braxton, if he finds this, we're done." So they were all in it. The birthday dinner. The fake concern. That toast. That toast was a curtain call on a show I didn't know I was in. I closed the laptop slow, stood up, and walked to the counter. Poured myself one. Just a little. Not to forget. But to see clear. "They didn't just try to take the house," I said out loud. "They tried to rewrite me." I sat back down. Pulled out the old voice recorder I used back when I led prayer nights. Held it like it still had purpose. Flipped the switch. The red light blinked. "My name is Vincent Sterling," I began. "And this is what they thought would never be heard." I spoke plain, laid it out, from the airport to the forged papers, from the court to that flash drive. I didn't raise my voice, didn't point fingers, just told it. "If this ever gets out, don't cry for me," I said. "Just remember, even a silent man got something to say." I finished the recording, labeled it for the truth, slid it into an envelope, sealed it with tape, held it a moment before setting it by the front door. Morning came quiet. Not soft, just gray. I stepped outside in my hoodie, envelope in hand, and walked to the corner mailbox. Slid it in slow, like I was handing it to someone. As I turned to go back inside, I saw it. A letter under my door. No name. No stamp. Just slid there like it was waiting on me. I picked it up, opened it. One sentence. Handwritten. "We know you found it. Don't do anything stupid." I stood in the middle of the living room, holding that note, letting the weight of it settle. Then I walked to the mirror, looked myself dead in the eye. "Too late," I whispered. The jazz record I left spinning from last night clicked over to silence. Then the bass came back in, slow and smooth. And outside, a black SUV cruised by the curb. Windows too dark to see through. But I didn't flinch.